The cage that sank. The sky was dark. The sea below was even darker. No stars, no ships, just silence and cold wind. Then, something fell from above. It was not a star. It was not a machine. It was a cage. The cage dropped fast, spinning through the air. Inside the cage, a small alien girl held onto the bars with weak hands. She was shivering. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes glowing softly in the darkness. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just waited. She had been waiting all her life. They told her she was not useful, not smart enough, not strong enough. Excess, they called her. Waste, they whispered. She remembered the last face she saw, a cold officer saying, "Drop her. We don't need another mouth." Then the cage was pushed out of the ship. Now the cage hit the sea with a loud splash. It sank slowly, bubbles rising around it. The girl closed her eyes. Her tiny fingers were numb. The metal cage creaked under the water's pressure. She curled into a ball and waited for the end. But fate had another plan. A small fishing boat floated nearby. It was old and quiet, almost invisible in the fog. Inside, a man sat alone, holding a warm cup of tea. His name was Elias. He had lived on the sea for many years, fishing alone after his family passed away. He had no one, no visitors, no friends, just the ocean. That night, Elias was not looking for fish. He was thinking about his dreams. Lately, he had been dreaming of eyes. Strange eyes, sad eyes, eyes that begged for help. He didn't understand why. Then he heard a sound, something hitting the water. He stood and walked to the edge of the boat. Fog surrounded him, thick like smoke. He couldn't see far. Then he saw it, a small flash under the water. Faint, like two glowing dots staring back at him. "What the hell?" he whispered. He grabbed a hook and rope, tossed it into the water, and waited. Something heavy caught on. He pulled. It was hard work, but Elias was strong. He pulled and pulled until the top of the cage broke the surface. He gasped. Inside was a girl, not human, not fish, alien. She was young, maybe 10 years old in human years. She looked weak, wet, and barely breathing. But her eyes were open, and they were staring right at him. He dropped to his knees, shocked. The girl didn't speak. She didn't move. But she was alive. What are you?" he asked, voice trembling. No answer. Just the sound of the ocean. Elias dragged the cage on board and broke the lock with his tools. He carefully lifted the girl out and wrapped her in his old coat. Her body was cold, her lips purple, but she didn't fight. She didn't even blink. He brought her inside and placed her on the small bed. Then he lit a fire and made warm soup. He didn't know what to do. Should he call someone? But who? He looked at the girl. She was sleeping now, her tiny hand holding the edge of the blanket tightly. She looked so peaceful, so broken. Elias sat beside her, confused. "Why would anyone throw a child into the sea?" he whispered. Hours passed, the fire crackled. The wind outside calmed down. Suddenly the girl opened her eyes. She turned her head and looked at Elias. Her lips moved slightly. He leaned in closer, heart beating fast. Her voice was dry, small, almost silent. "Why did you pull me out?" Elias blinked. He didn't know how to answer. No one had spoken to him in weeks. And now this girl from the stars, was asking why he saved her. He thought for a moment, then said, "Because no one deserves to die like that." The girl closed her eyes again, and for the first time since she was created, she smiled, even just a little. The human and the haunting eyes Elias could not sleep that night. The storm had passed, but the storm inside his mind had just begun. He sat in his chair beside the fire, eyes fixed on the small alien girl lying in his bed. Her breathing was shallow but steady now. The heavy coat wrapped around her had dried. Her skin looked a bit warmer. Her small hands were curled into fists like she was ready to fight even in her dreams. But it was her eyes that haunted him, those glowing, sad eyes. He had seen pain before. War, loss, death. He had faced them all. But never had he seen such quiet fear in someone so young. He whispered to himself, "What have they done to her?" The girl didn't move. Her name was still unknown, her story still untold. But in that silence, Elias felt something deep, a connection, as if he had known her for years, as if she had been waiting for him, and him alone, to find her. By morning, she was awake again. She sat up slowly, her body weak, her bones thin like glass, but her eyes were clear now, watchful, calm, and far too old for her face. Elias approached carefully. He offered her a warm drink. She didn't take it. He placed it beside her and sat on the edge of the bed. "Do you remember your name?" He asked gently. The girl looked down, a long pause, then she said softly, "I don't think I had one." Elias blinked. No name. She was not a runaway. She wasn't lost. She was discarded. Like trash. Like something made and thrown away. "They called me Unit 93. XS Bio. Category 3. She added quietly, almost like she was reciting a memory from a machine. Elias swallowed hard. His fists clenched. He tried to smile. "You need a real name. A name with meaning." The girl looked at him for a moment. Her eyes reflected the firelight like tiny moons. "What do names mean?" Elias thought. Then he pointed outside the window toward the ocean. "That sea is dangerous, but it's also beautiful. It hides life. It carries stories. Your name should be like that." He paused, thinking harder, then smiled. "Lyra." The girl blinked. He said it again, slower. "Lyra. It means song, in a very old language." She let the name sit in silence, and for the first time, she repeated something without being told. "Lyra," she said softly. "That's me?" Elias nodded. "Yes, that's you. But peace never lasts." That same day, just before sunset, a strange sound echoed from above. Elias stepped outside. A patrol drone hovered far in the sky. It wasn't local. It belonged to one of the deep space cleaning fleets. Those weren't rescue ships. They were the ones who got rid of excess biological matter. He froze. Had they tracked her? Was this a search pattern? He grabbed a pair of binoculars. The drone turned, scanned the area, and flew on. It didn't seem to spot his small fishing boat, but that meant they were watching. They knew something fell. "Here." Elias rushed back inside. "Lyra, listen to me. There are people out there looking for you. Bad people. If they find you, they'll finish what they started." Lyra didn't cry. She didn't panic. She simply said, "They won't stop. More cages will fall tonight, more like me." Elias stared at her. "How do you know?" Lyra's voice was steady now. "Because I was the first of the test batch. They always drop us in waves. 5 more were behind me." Elias's heart dropped. 5 more, thrown into the ocean? Like her, how many survive? He asked. Lyra looked him straight in the eyes. None. That night, Elias didn't rest. He upgraded his scanner, set course deeper into the fog. Lyra sat beside him, wrapped in a new coat. She was still weak, but her mind was sharp. She memorized the drone patterns, told Elias where they might come again. She even rewired a broken radar panel with skill that no child should have. Elias stared at her in amazement. "You were trained?" "Not trained. Programmed." His voice softened. "But you're not a machine." Lyra looked out over the sea and whispered, "I don't know what I am." An hour later, the scanner beeped. Elias looked at the screen. Another cage. Dropping fast, he turned the ship toward the splash zone. They reached the site quickly, but the sea was too rough. The waves crashed violently. The cage was sinking fast, too deep. Elias grabbed his gear. Stay here, he told her, but Lyra grabbed his arm. You won't make it alone. Let me help. He shook his head. You're still healing. She stared at him. They're like me. I have to help. Elias paused, then nodded. Together they fought the storm. They used the hook, the ropes, and Lyra's knowledge of the drop pods. With her help, Elias managed to pull one cage from the water. Inside was a tiny girl unconscious. Her skin was cracked from freezing water. She looked even younger than Lyra, but she was alive. Lyra reached in, held her hand, and whispered something in her language. The little girl opened her eyes just barely. Elias wrapped her in blankets. Lyra looked at him, her voice fierce now. We go back. We come again tomorrow. We don't stop. He looked at her, this girl who was thrown away like trash, and now stood like fire beside him. He nodded. The wind howled around them, but Elias smiled through it. We don't stop. A name, not a number. The small girl they rescued didn't speak for hours. She lay curled beside the fire in Elias's cabin, covered in thick blankets, shaking with cold. Her eyes flickered open and closed, her body fighting for warmth, for life. Elias had seen sick people before, but never like this. Her thin skin was stretched over bones. Her spine had strange marks, burned in tags with code numbers, not names. A living body, but treated like trash. Lyra never left her side. She stayed there, silent, watching the girl breathe. She gently brushed the wet hair from the child's forehead and whispered things in a soft alien tongue, sounds that felt like comfort, like a mother's lullaby. Elias sat across from them, feeling something strange in his chest. It wasn't just sadness, it was anger too, and guilt. He had lived alone on the sea for years. While above, the stars were hiding crimes no one dared to speak of. Now he knew. Now he couldn't look away. The girl opened her eyes at dawn. Lyra was the first to see. She leaned close. Can you hear me? The little girl blinked slowly, then gave a tiny nod. Elias brought her warm soup. She tried to sip, but couldn't hold the cup steady. Lyra helped her drink. After a while, Elias asked gently, Do you have a name? The girl looked down, silent. Then, very softly, she said, I was batch 42, Unit 12, Category B. Lyra's face hardened. She looked at Elias and whispered. They gave her a number, not a name, like me. Elias clenched his jaw. Not anymore. He knelt beside the small girl and smiled. How about Yara? The child blinked. What does it mean? It means little butterfly, Elias said. Fragile, but stronger than it looks. The girl smiled, a weak, uncertain smile, but it was the first smile her face had ever known. Yara, she whispered. Later that day, Lyra sat with Elias at the edge of the boat. Waves rocked them gently. The sea was calmer now, but inside, both of them, something had changed. Elias looked at her. You're not like anyone I've ever met. Lyra turned away. I was made to serve, not to be me. He shook his head. You're not a machine. I was designed, tested, rejected. Elias was quiet for a moment, then said, No, you were freed. Lyra's hands tightened on the metal railing. There are others, she said. I remember more names, more units. Some were older, some younger, all sent to the sea. Why? Elias asked. She looked at him with fire in her voice. Because they didn't meet the standards. Too emotional, too curious, too alive. Elias opened the storage locker and pulled out an old sat box, a communication device that could reach across the outer colonies. He hadn't used it in years. It still worked. He paused. If he sent a message now, told someone about what he'd seen, he could be arrested, branded a traitor, hunted. He looked at Lyra and Yara. He didn't care. He activated the device. But before he could send anything, the signal jammed. The screen turned red. Then, static. Then, a voice. You are harboring unauthorized bio units. Disconnect and prepare for inspection. Lyra's body went stiff. They found us, she said. Elias dropped the box and ran to the control deck. A red blinking light on the radar confirmed it. A drone carrier was approaching fast. Big. Military. Unmarked, but clearly not local. He turned the boat. Hold on, he shouted. Lyra grabbed Yara and ran below deck. The ship roared across the sea, but the sky was no longer empty. 3 drones dropped from the clouds, sleek, black machines with silent wings. They didn't shoot, not yet. They circled the boat like vultures. Elias knew the game. They wanted him scared. They wanted him to stop, but he didn't. Suddenly, the boat's engine sparked, jammed. Elias cursed and hit the controls. They've locked the engine, he growled. Lyra climbed up with a small toolkit in hand. I can fix it, she said, crawling under the panel like she'd done it before. She's a child, Elias thought. But she moved like a pro. The drones moved. Lower. One of them activated a voice projector. Deliver the units, you have 10 seconds. Yara whimpered from below deck. Lyra's fingers worked fast. Elias stepped out with a flare gun, pointed it high. He didn't fire at the drones. He fired into the sky. A message, a warning, a line drawn. The drone's voice came again. Final warning. Surrender the excess, or be destroyed. Lyra screamed from under the panel. It's fixed. Go! Elias slammed the controls. The boat roared forward again, narrowly missing the first drone as it dived. One drone clipped the railing and exploded into the sea. The others chased. Lyra grabbed Yara and hit her in a crawl space. Elias pushed the engines hard. The boat groaned but flew through the fog. A dark shape appeared on the horizon, an old oil rig long abandoned. He steered toward it. Lyra looked confused. Why there? Elias grinned. Because no one watches places they forgot. They reached the platform and climbed onto the rusted metal. The boat was hidden below. The girls stayed inside a small shack on the rig. Elias sat at the edge, staring out at the sea. We're not safe anymore, Lyra said behind him. He nodded. But we're not running. He turned to her. We save the rest, however many we can. Lyra stared at him. You're risking your life for us. Why? Elias looked at her glowing eyes. Because someone once told me I wasn't worth saving. And no one came. I promised. If I ever saw someone like that again, I wouldn't look away. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. Not because she was sad, because for the first time, someone saw her as real. Not excess, not a number, but a person. With a name, hunted for saving her. The rusted oil platform groaned under the weight of time and sea. Wind howled through broken railings. Salt clung to everything. But for Elias, Lyra, and little Yara, it was now home. Or at least, a hiding place. Elias had blocked the stairs, welded shut 2 old access hatches and hidden the boat under the rig using a net of seaweed and scrap. Lyra helped him, her mind always thinking ahead. Yara stayed close to the heat vent, sleeping curled up like a kitten. The cold wind never stopped. That night, the sky was empty. But silence no longer meant safety. Elias knew they were being hunted, not just by drones, but by something smarter, something colder. He stared at the stars above and whispered, They know we're alive, and they don't want us to stay that way. At dawn, Lyra found an old panel buried under metal sheets. It still had faint power. She linked her fingers into the wire ports and closed her eyes. The lights blinked. Elias stepped back, watching. Lyra wasn't just smart. She was connected. Her body, her brain, somehow made to talk with alien tech. She was reading the signal in her blood. After a minute, her eyes opened wide. They've marked you, she said. Me? Elias asked. Yes. The network labeled you. Code read human. Interference threat level active. They've sent something. Something? Not drones. Not soldiers. Worse. Elias stepped back. His hand moved to his sidearm, a small shock pistol. It wouldn't be enough, but he felt safer holding it. How long before they find us? Lyra looked up. They already have. That night the fog was heavy. The sea looked like boiling milk, thick and endless. The sound of waves crashing was louder than before. Elias stood on the edge of the platform with binoculars. Then he saw it. Not a ship, not a drone. Something rising from the water. Like a shadow, tall and wide. Metallic skin, but alive. Its head turned slowly. No lights, no sound. Just a presence that screamed death. He rushed back to the shack. "We move now," he barked. Lyra grabbed Yara. "What is it?" "I don't know, but it's not here to talk." They climbed down a rope into the hidden boat. Elias started the engine, quietly, but the shadow moved faster than he thought. A sudden beam of black light shot from the sea, striking the edge of the platform. The metal burned, twisted, then fell into the sea. Elias turned the boat hard. The shadow chased. From the water it moved like a serpent, long limbs, sharp ends, and eyes that burned like dying stars. Lyra stared at it, whispering in fear. "That's a cleanser. It erases evidence, even living ones." "Great," Elias muttered. So they sent their best killer. The boat roared across the sea. But the cleanser was gaining. It didn't float. It walked on the water, on long spider-like legs that folded and stabbed the surface like a nightmare. Lyra held Yara close. "If we go to land, they'll send more. We can't outfight that thing," Elias said. "But maybe we can." Outsmarted. He turned the wheel sharply, heading toward a cluster of sea stacks, giant sharp rocks rising from the waves like teeth. "What are you doing?" Lyra shouted. "Going where it can't follow." The rocks were narrow and dangerous. One wrong move, and the boat would crack open. But Elias had fished these waters for years. He knew the paths, knew where the tide pulled hardest, where only a light ship could pass. The cleanser followed, but slower. It had to move carefully now. Elias zigzagged through the rocks. Lyra held tight, guiding with her scanner. Suddenly, crash! One of the cleanser's legs caught a stone and snapped. It screamed, not a voice but a sound that vibrated through their bones. It was angry. It was in pain. And it wasn't finished. Elias didn't stop. He drove through a narrow tunnel in the rocks, a tunnel only big enough for his boat. On the other side, open sea again. But something else waited. A giant metal buoy tower with old communication gear. Mostly useless now, but one part still worked. The beacon. Elias turned to Lyra. "Can you boost that thing's range?" "Maybe," she said, running to the console. He tied the boat to the tower. The sea around them was calmer now. But the feeling wasn't something was coming. Again. Lyra tore open the panel, plugged in her fingers again. Sparks flew. Her eyes glowed. She gasped. "I see it all now. Where they drop the cages. Where they watch. Where they clean." Elias leaned in. "Can you send it?" "Yes. To everyone. All open frequencies. Do it." The beacon lit up. Its signal screamed into the stars. A video started. Cages falling, children crying, drones watching. Hidden files, numbers, faces, evidence. Elias stared in silence. The galaxy would see it now. But Lyra's voice broke through. "They're jamming us." Another shadow appeared behind them. Not the cleanser. A new ship. Sleek, black, sharp like a knife. It opened fire. Boom! The buoy shook. Fire sprayed. Lyra flew back. Elias caught her. Yara screamed, hiding behind the console. The boat caught flames, but the signal had already gone. The message was out. The black ship hovered above the sea. Voice spoke from it. Not robotic, human. You've broken Law 7. You've aided rejects. Prepare for disintegration. Elias pulled out his pistol. It wasn't enough, but he raised it anyway. I don't care about your laws, he said. Lyra stood beside him, blood on her cheek but eyes blazing. I am not your property, she shouted, and suddenly something changed. Her skin lit up, her veins glowed, the console beside her sparked, then exploded. The black ship blinked, then dropped, falling, dying. The sky went silent. Elias turned, stunned. Lyra collapsed in his arms. Alan unlocked something, she whispered. He held her close. What did you do? I don't know, but they felt it. All of them. Everywhere. Beneath the dead waters, Lyra slept for 2 days. She didn't move. Not even when the sea roared. Not even when thunder cracked the sky above. Elias kept watch the whole time. He carried her onto a small island not found on most maps, a forgotten reef that surfaced only during low tide. It was rocky and sharp, but better than the burning boat or the wrecked tower. Little Yara sat beside Lyra every hour. She didn't understand what had happened. All she knew was that her big sister had screamed with light, and then everything had broken. Now, they waited. On the third morning, Lyra opened her eyes. Elias almost cried. Her voice was weak but calm. Did the signal go out? Elias nodded. Yes, the galaxy saw it. She smiled faintly. Then we're not alone anymore. But even as she said it, he saw the worry behind her eyes, because something else had changed. You felt it too, didn't you? She whispered that night. Elias sat beside her near a dying fire. Felt what? She touched her chest. When I screamed, something inside me broke, or maybe woke up. Elias didn't understand, but he listened. I think I was designed to hold something, Lyra said. A last backup. A secret program. The creators didn't know it was there. Weapon? Elias asked. Not exactly, she said. Something older. I hear voices now, not loud but deep, ancient. That night Lyra dreamed. In her dream she was floating, not in the sea but beneath it, in a black space filled with whispers. She saw figures watching her, thousands of them, alien children like her, standing in cages beneath the ocean floor, waiting, sinking, gone, but not forgotten. One of them reached out and touched her hand, and she woke with a scream. I know where they are, she said the next morning. Elias blinked. Who? The others. Lyra stood, her body still weak but her eyes full of fire. They didn't just dump the cages to drown, she explained. They used the sea as a vault, a mass storage. There are hundreds down there, maybe more. How do you know? I saw them. In my mind. When I touched that tower, something opened. I was linked to them all. Elias stared out over the waves. You're saying the ocean floor is a graveyard? No, she whispered. It's a prison. They fixed the boat using leftover parts from the wreck. It wasn't perfect, but it floated. That was enough. Lyra guided Elias with her new gift. She could feel the signals from below. Cold, broken thoughts, sleeping minds, the silent cries of children locked in darkness. It took 3 days. But finally, they reached it. Trench deep and black where no fisherman ever dared go. The water shimmered strangely here. The air smelled like metal and death. Elias dropped the scanner. It went silent halfway down. Then, ping, cages. Rows and rows of them. Some rusted, some new. Each one, holding a child. I'm diving, Elias said, already pulling on his gear. No, Lyra said quickly. You'll die down there. The pressure, the dark. They've set traps. So how do we get them out? She looked at the waves. We make the sea give them back. Lyra walked into the water slowly. The waves parted around her. Yara watched with wide eyes from the boat. Elias followed, staying close. Lyra closed her eyes and whispered in her old language. One Elias couldn't understand. Her fingers glowed again. The sea began to boil. The ground trembled. Then a light. Deep below, something opened, an old machine, hidden under years of sand and salt. It was circular, with a pulse like a heart. It had been placed there long ago. A lock. For the lost, and now it heard Lyra's call. The first cage rose from the water like a coffin. Elias gasped. Inside was a girl with green skin and silver eyes. Her body was thin. Her chest barely moved, but she was alive. Yara ran to the edge, calling out. The girl blinked. Slowly, carefully. Then another cage surfaced. Then another. 5, 10, 20. Children of all kinds. Colors, shapes, scars. Each one, forgotten, left to die. Now rising. Because one human saw a soul in Lyra's eyes. Alarms began to scream from the sky. Drones. Lots of them. Elias grabbed his rifle. Lyra stood firm, her arms glowing. I'll hold them off, she said. You can't fight them all. I'm not alone, she said. And then the children began to move. The rescued ones, once weak, began to hum softly. Their bodies glowed too. Lyra had awakened something in them. They were connected, and they were tired of being silent. The drones fired. The air exploded. Lyra raised her hand, and a shield of energy blocked the blast. Elias stared. How are you doing this? Lyra answered without looking back. We were never weak. We were just never allowed to grow. The children stood behind her, holding hands. Their lights joined. The sea began to glow. The drones tried again. But this time, the blast bounced back. One drone exploded in midair. Another shut down mid-flight and crashed into the waves. The others turned and fled. Lyra fell to her knees. She was shaking. Elias caught her. You did it, he whispered. She looked up, crying. No, they did it. I just reminded them who they were. All around, the rescued children cried, hugged, sang in strange voices. Yara held the hand of the silver-eyed girl from the first cage. One girl stood up and pointed to the sky. Others will come. Lyra nodded. Let them. This time, we're ready. The girl who controlled the storm. The sea was calm. Too calm. The kind of silence that hides thunder behind the clouds. Lyra stood at the edge of the boat, her wet clothes stuck to her skin, her eyes still glowing faintly from the energy she had used. Around her were children, rescued, cold, hungry, but no longer afraid. For the first time, they stood in the open sky, alive. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Elias checked the scanner, eyes sharp. He knew war was coming, and it wasn't going to come quietly. Lyra was changing. Since the moment she unlocked the vault, beneath the sea, something had awakened in her. Something old, something not fully hers. She didn't just feel thoughts now. She heard them. She didn't just see signals, she spoke to them. Her voice could bend machines, her will could ripple through the ocean. She wasn't a child anymore, she was becoming something more. They'll send ships now, she said to Elias that night. Real ones with soldiers, not drones. He looked at her. Can we stop them? She looked down at her hands. I don't know, but I'll try. At dawn, the sky cracked open. Black clouds formed a line on the horizon. Ships, not one, not two, a fleet of tall, silent warships with no flags, no colors, ghost ships of the old orders. They didn't carry warnings. They carried orders. Erase everything. Lyra stood on the platform beside Elias, the children huddled behind them. Yara held Lyra's hand tightly. The other rescued children gathered in, a circle waiting. They had no weapons, they had no army, but they had her, and Lyra had the storm. She stepped forward. The ship stopped a few kilometers away. Loudspeakers cracked to life. Return all units. Human interference is forbidden. You are surrounded. Elias raised his gun. Same speech. New ships, he muttered. But Lyra didn't speak. Not yet. She raised both arms. The wind responded. Waves rose beneath her. The air trembled. It was not magic. It was memory. A connection to every cage, every scream, every unit number erased. She whispered a word in the old tongue. And the sea answered. The clouds swirled above. Rain began to fall, fast, hard, sharp. Lightning cracked through the sky. One of the ships fired a warning shot. A beam of red light screamed through the air, but stopped mid-flight. Lyra held it in place, her eyes glowing like stars. She turned the beam sideways and threw it back. The warship exploded in a ball of light and fire. Gasps filled the air. Even Elias couldn't believe what he saw. The other ships paused. They didn't expect this. They were fighting more than a child now. They were fighting a miracle. But the fleet commander wasn't scared. He activated a backup weapon, the Storm Chainer, an old orbit satellite that could freeze gravity over an entire region, lock movement, shut down energy, trap mines. It activated above the clouds. Elias saw the blinking light in the sky. Lyra felt it before it began. She screamed, "Get down!" A wave of invisible pressure fell from above. Everything stopped. The waves, the wind, the air. Lyra fell to one knee. Yara cried out. Elias dropped his gun. His fingers couldn't move. It was like time itself had been chained. But then, Lyra stood, up slowly, painfully, one step at a time, her body shaking but her mind still free. The machine couldn't control her, not anymore. Her voice cracked through the storm. "You cannot chain us, not anymore." She reached toward the clouds. The storm chainer pulsed again, harder. Blood ran from Lyra's nose. She screamed. The sea screamed with her. And then, boom, a bolt of lightning from the sea, not the sky, shot straight into the clouds. The storm chainer exploded like glass. Gravity returned. The wind exploded in every direction. The enemy ships were tossed side to side. Lyra collapsed, but smiling. She had broken the chain. Elias ran to her. He caught her just before she hit the ground. She was breathing. Barely. "You saved them," he whispered. Her voice was weak. "Not all. Some are still below. Some are still asleep." The children gathered around her. They didn't cry. They stood strong. Yara stepped forward and said in a loud voice, "You are our storm now." The next day, messages came through the open beacon. Not threats, not orders, but voices from other humans, from alien families, from outposts that saw the footage. Some were crying, some were screaming, all were asking, "Is it true?" Elias answered, one by one, "Yes. It's true." They dropped them into the sea. They called them waste. But they're alive. They have names. And one of them controls the storm now. Far away, in the cold council rooms of the galaxy, powerful leaders watched. The images again and again, they spoke in quiet fear. If one of them can awaken, how many more can rise? But back on the sea, Lyra stood once more. Stronger now, different. Her back was straight, her voice firm. She wore a coat Elias gave her, not to hide, but to lead. She looked to the stars and whispered. They wanted silence, but now the galaxy will hear our storm. The eyes that changed the galaxy watched. From cold colonies to busy trade worlds, from silent mining stations to rich council planets, everyone had seen it. The footage of the cages, the cries of the forgotten, the light rising from the sea, and at the center of it all, her eyes. Lyra's eyes, eyes that once begged for mercy, now stared back at the stars with the force of a rising storm. But peace was not won. Not yet. Ships still circled nearby, waiting. Governments held meetings in secret. Some demanded Lyra be captured, studied, silenced. Others called her a symbol. A new beginning. Elias listened to the noise, but he never let Lyra hear it. She had already given too much. Now, it was the galaxy's turn to decide. Lyra stood on the boat as it cut through quiet water. The rescued children stayed below deck, resting. Only Yara stayed by her side, holding her hand. They passed the place where her cage had fallen weeks ago. The sea was calm, but Lyra remembered everything. The cold, the darkness, the voice that called her excess. Now she was the girl who broke the silence. The human government sent a ship, but it didn't open fire. It sent a voice message. "We request a peaceful meeting," Elias replied. "We don't trust requests. Come alone." And someone did. A woman. Older. Gray hair. A high-ranking diplomat who had once helped design the laws Lyra broke just by existing. She stepped onto the boat, nervous. She looked at Lyra. "You don't look dangerous," she said. Lyra looked back with steady eyes. "Then you're not looking." The woman didn't argue. She brought food, water, and something more valuable than all of it. A broadcast link. Uncontrolled. Uncensored. Lyra stepped in front of the camera. The whole galaxy watched again. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just spoke. Simple. Honest. True. "My name is Lyra. I was made in a lab. I was told I had no purpose. I was told I was a mistake. But a human saw me. He pulled me from the sea. He gave me a name. Now I speak for the thousands who were thrown away like trash. We are not broken. We are not property. We are alive. And we are not silent anymore." Some cheered. Some wept. Some turned off the broadcast in fear. But no one could say they didn't hear her. Not this time. Soon, ships from different systems arrived. Not to attack, but to offer help. Medical teams. Journalists. Families who had lost their children and thought them dead. And then, something no one expected. A rebel fleet. But not against Lyra. For her. They had seen her light. And they believed. Elias sat beside her that night on the deck. "You changed everything," he said. "No," she replied softly. "We did." He smiled. "You still hear them? The ones still trapped?" She nodded. "Less every day. More are waking. Some are finding their way to the surface." Lyra stood the next morning at the edge of the sea. The sky was golden. The wind was soft. A new day. Yara ran up to her. "Lyra? Yes? What do we do now?" Lyra looked out at the waves, and then up at the sky. "We rise." Months passed. Then years. The old sea became a place of memory, a memorial. Cages were raised. Names were given. Children grew. Lyra's name was written in every history book in every language, not as a weapon, not as a leader, but as the girl who opened her eyes and made the galaxy see. Final scene, Elias, older now, walked the beach with Yara. She was taller, stronger, full of fire like her sister. Lyra was gone. Not dead. Not missing. Just gone. Some say she became part of the stars. Some say she lives on a hidden world, guiding others, but Elias believed something else. That Lyra had become the storm itself, forever watching, forever protecting the broken, the lost, the cast away. And every time thunder rolled across the sea, he smiled. Because he knew she was still out there, watching, waiting, and never forgotten. Title. Echo. Cast off into the sea to die, but a human saw more than excess in her eyes. And those eyes, they didn't just change one man, they changed the galaxy, forever.